Well, the birther movement. It's been cast as a fringe fantasy of the far right. But now it's resurfaced in the spotlight with the soapbox of possible GOP presidential hopeful Donald Trump. Take a listen.
3 weeks ago when I started, I thought he was probably born in this country. And now I really have a much bigger doubt. Why doesn't he show his birth certificate? Why has he spent over $2 million in legal fees to keep this quiet and to keep this silent?
But a new poll shows it is anything but fringe, goes far beyond Donald Trump. 45% of Republicans do not believe President Obama was born in the U.S. 22% aren't sure, just 33% believe that he was. Now, the mainstream media is focused on proving those people who don't believe he was born here wrong with evidence of Obama's birthplace. Take a listen.
The myth that will not die, the bogus belief that President Obama was born elsewhere. In fact, far from cooling, there's new polling that shows birther fever has now infected an awful lot of potential voters.
Well, I have the president's certificate right here. It's certified. It's got a certification number. It's got the registrar of the state signed. It's got a seal on it, and it says this copy serves as prima facie evidence of the fact of birth in any court proceeding.
Now, lost in that discussion is the divide in this country that the birther movement represents. It reflects a portion of the American psyche that's moved mainstream, which seems to defy live birth certificates and newspaper birth announcements. So what is this really about? Earlier, I spoke with Adam Kokesh, host of Adam versus the Man, and I asked him that very question. Take a listen.
I do identify with those who are skeptical of anything that we hear from the mainstream media, and I personally believe the president was born in the United States. Do I know that? No. Do I have certainty? No. Are two little pieces of paper going to convince me if I believe otherwise? No. So there's a place for healthy skepticism, but I think this is a fringe issue, even though, as you pointed out, hold on, even as you've pointed out, it does have a certain mainstream appeal. And there is an appeal to a lot of the Republican base that just says, I don't like this guy, and anything that someone says it's bad about him, I'm going to latch onto. And that's not something that's really unique about the Republican base. That's just a part of human nature and human psychology. You know, we're able to attach evil things or bad ideas to people that we don't like. And I would appeal to those people and say...
We've had people be opposed to the policies or the rhetoric of presidents in the past. You don't see the same question of their legitimacy as a president or their citizenship. What is behind that? Well,
there's a unique aspect with the first black president, and you know, I'm not going to shy away from that and say that that's not part of it, because it comes from a new American ethnocentrism, and it's primarily seen in the Republican Party now, I think, in the base, and in independents rather than in Democrats, although you're starting to see it there too, because we're not in a good place as a country right now. We're not in a good place economically, and so when you have that kind of crisis of confidence, you seek out, you know, people to blame, places to latch that negativity onto, and it's no surprise that Obama's become a target of it. The fact that it's taken this particular form in the birther movement, you know, it's a little disappointing, it's a little bit silly, and I think it is a fringe issue. Like, it has broad appeal, like you pointed out, but it's not something that people are in the streets about. People are in the streets from the Republican base saying taxes are too high. They're talking about the issues with Obama.
Fine, fair enough. But 45% of Republicans don't believe he was born here. And you see that same kind of mentality, too, when you hear people say Obama's a socialist, and people do take to the streets with that rhetoric. Well, also the birther rhetoric at Tea Party rallies. So what are these things kind of really about policies, or are these kind of proxies for deeper-seated fears?
Well, the accusations of socialism actually have some grounds in analysis of his real policies there. Whether or not you want to attach the label of socialism to it is a matter of how you want to define it. But in terms of the birther issue, what we see in the way that Donald Trump is presenting it now, there are people who want to raise this to sensationalize it. I think Trump is running for a publicity campaign, not for president. I mean, I don't think anybody's really taking him seriously at this point, at least I would hope not. But there is that appeal, and because of that, there are people like Donald Trump who are going to use this issue to manipulate the political process. And I wouldn't be surprised if Trump was on the Obama administration payroll for this. If he's doing this just for the sake of getting Obama reelected.
Now the conspiracy theorist in you is coming out. But along those lines, you know, of manipulating the Republican Party, the Republican base, do you think people are that dumb, though? I mean, come on.
It's not that they're dumb, but that they're not paying attention, and that they don't have the time to, because they're worried about their families and getting a job and taking care of their own personal economic situation. They're not, I mean, if you ask them what is the most important issue facing the country, and in surveys that say, you know, what is your top concern, it's economy, jobs, a little bit foreign policy, which to me is unfortunately low because I think it's so directly connected in terms of spending to all of our economic problems. Obama's birthplace doesn't register on those surveys. People aren't concerned with it. If you say, do you think Obama was born here or not? A lot of people will say, yeah, of course not. I hate that guy. But do they really care about it? Is it really a priority? I don't think so. We are a country that is starting to realize that it's not about left, right. It's not about Republican, Democrat. It's not about these partisan issues. It's about who's really in control of this country, who really owns this country. And it's people like Donald Trump. And who does real America
think it really owns this country and is in control?
Not them. And that's a problem. And that's why people are pissed. And that's why people are willing to latch onto this. And in a way, there's a certain desperation that says, things are really tough. We know we're not really in a position of empowerment to be engaged in this. We know we have someone in the White House that we don't like who's not doing anything good for the economy. So there's a natural channel for that into silly things like birtherism.
And they seem to defy logic. They seem to defy logic because there's much evidence that disproves them.
I mean, there are people who are birthers who are all those things you said about them. But the vast majority of that, 45%, are just people who don't trust the mainstream media anymore, and for very good reason, and don't trust Obama for very good reason, because he hasn't kept promises and he's lied or many of his campaign promises have turned into obvious lies, and so they have good reason not to trust him. They have great reason not to trust the mainstream media that's given them 2 pieces of paper that are from a newspaper and from the government. So, you know, can you really ridicule people for just having that doubt?